welcome to all of our viewers there on Facebook Live, and welcome to our Zoom family behind the scenes. It's so nice to have everyone. Tonight, we are going to be bringing you the 30-second pearl of wisdom, which is rejoice. And it's interesting because Mynoo is going to bring forth these 7 facets to deepen your experience of rejoice. And I'm so interested because each week, as you know, there's a different 7 either ways or secrets, characteristics, inroads, formula. There's always 7. And tonight, it's going to be these facets to deepen your experience of rejoice. So I love facets because this is looking at it from like how a gemstone is cut, and there's many different sides to it. So I'm very curious to hear these 7 facets that Mynoo will be bringing alive to us tonight. So rejoice means to regenerate joy as a matter of choice. And Mynoo will be going much deeper into how that's going to take place for each of you as you delve in further to this 30-second pearl of wisdom. With this knowing, what are the 7 facets to accentuate rejoice? Well, Mynoo Maryel shares her fresh insights that will surprise and delight as they always do. She'll also reveal why it's important to remain in this vibe in any situation and how to tap into it when the going gets tough. So it's really easy for us to be in a celebratory way when we're feeling it, when we're feeling good. But Mynoo's going to give us a little insight on, well, how do we do that even when we're not really feeling it, even when it's tough out there? So again, welcome to everyone tonight. This is the 30-second pearl of wisdom. We have 108. We're on the 32nd. And these are the 7 facets to deepen your experience of rejoice. Rejoice means to regenerate joy as a matter of choice. And I love that. And Mynoo will delve much more deeply into that as we go forward tonight. And we're going to get started right on time. So hello, Mynoo. So good to see you.
Hello, Catherine. I'm looking forward to this one.
That's what you said. You said it was one of your favorites. It's like the magic carpet ride. Here we go.
Yes, it's even more pertinent and relevant, as I'll share in a moment. But hello, everyone. So let's begin. If we have some time, we can also do some question and answers, but you never know how much wishes to come through. So we'll see what occurs. Thank you. So rejoice. The 30-second pearl of wisdom. I really loved the realization that rejoice, when expanded, actually means regenerating joy by choice. Rejoice is so perfectly aligned with, what this particular era is about. Those of you who've been participating for a while, you will recall we did the 10 commandments for this new world. And each of these commandments are foundational. And one of those commandments is a shift from sustainable to regenerative. And rejoice is one of those natural, innate vibe of it is regenerating, a very yummy experience of joy, which means if you choose to become consciously aware of actions that give you joy, experiences that give you that feeling of joy, and you literally start building your treasure trove of joy, and you can dip into it as and when you require, as a matter of choice, every action of joy, every experience that gives you joy has the ability to continuously regenerate itself. And that combined with working with the power of the universe that automatically applies a multiplier effect, it's very exciting indeed to be working with rejoice. Now, what makes rejoice even more interesting as a pearl of wisdom is I get these intuitive downloads, I call them, and I get them about each year. And there are several of you who are part of the journey to miracles, and you are the first ones to hear it from me yesterday. And also our Beyond Meditation family. I've now received a glimpse of what 2022 is about. What's the vibration of 2022? And you will recall, I think somebody sent me a recording of mine when I was talking about the 2020s in 2016. And I remember talking about 2022. And in many ways, it panned out in the way that I spoke about it. But 2020 was about literally a baggage-free flight, putting the past in the past. And it was all about regrouping and re-anchoring us so that our core values come into our conscious awareness. And that busyness, hamster on the wheel, trip that we as humans were on was like we all got the realization that we were on this hamster wheel as opposed to moving forward. So 2020 was past in the past, regroup, create what you're about to enter 2021, which is a year about flowing in flow. 2022 actually has the ooh la la rejoicing vibe. So that's the innate vibe of 2022. It calls us to restore and resurrect ourselves. We've got some more time left over the next few months to utilize the flowing current to help us find our flow. And more about that during my Beyond Meditation sessions. But I wanted to set the context that given where we are at and where we are heading, rejoice indeed is a pearl of wisdom, regenerating joy by choice. And the entire year is going to be about that as its innate vibe. And the ooh la la part is how we choose to blossom and experience regenerating joy by choice. Now, let's look at the different facets so we can accentuate this experience. And it is the secret of being able to find rejoicing in the toughest of situations lies in understanding these different facets. Just like in the diamond, there are these cuts and there are some crevices and some peaks. And it's a combination of all of that that creates that sparkle. Similarly, in rejoicing, these different facets give you the peaks and troughs and have them arranged in exactly the perfect way. So the sparkle of the experience of rejoicing just beams out. So the first facet is reach out. So when you are rejoicing, your vibe reaches out to and touches more people than you can even imagine. And what this facet also talks about is, every step of the way, get clear about what is there in the midst, whatever is going on. There is always something there for you to rejoice. Even if you are experiencing a really tough situation, you are here. You have life. That is worthy of rejoicing. So there is always, this is one of the facets of rejoicing, is there is always something to reach out to that you can rejoice about. Now, it's so much easier to find what that is if you already have created, a treasure trove of different aspects that are worthy of rejoicing. And given that rejoice basically is, regenerating joy by choice, what I say to people is, in the context of reach out, what is the treasure trove that you build up? You build up your actions that give you joy. You build up the choices and experiences that give you joy. And it's actually quite a great thing to, do like a joy stock taking. And you can do it once a week. And just take stock of everything that you have in your treasure trove. So there's great value in using your fingers to write. And you can write on paper, that's great. Or you can of course use the Remarkable, as I do, which and allows you to write, and you can of course email all of that to you. And it has the joy of writing on paper. Now I'm saying this writing part as a part of the reach out, because in meditation, they ask you to use a mudra, a way in which you hold your fingers. You touch your index finger to your thumb, right? And what that does is it's called the concentration pose. It's called the wisdom pose, dhyana mudra or jnana mudra. Now, when you're writing, you're doing this too. So it's literally getting you to concentrate, getting you to, replenish your own repertoire of reservoir, actually, of inner wisdom as you're writing. And when you go back and revisit what you've written, it has an energy signature which is far deeper than just recording it or even just typing it. And I'm saying this from experience. I was one of these very early people in the computer industry in my career. So it was a long time that I had not used paper and pen until I started my spiritual awakening journeys and then understood the power of actually writing. So writing your collection of activities, actions, experiences, connections, way of being, the sort of things you like to do, you get to know yourself at a deeper level. You literally reach in far more deeply and about what is it that makes you tick. And then it gives you access to a whole collection of stuff from where you can reach out. Reach out also means that, when you have a collection of things that give you joy, you can reach out and invite people that you care about, people that you love, to join in with you and share it. But if you have to at a point where everybody is like freaking out, at that point to start to create something may not land as well. You remain very centered when you know that there is a whole collection of things. Now, how can you practically implement this? Yes, create your treasure trove of that which gives you joy. What I also would do is take it a bit further and say, and also jot down circumstances where you first used it. What was your emotional state? What was your mental state? What was going on in your physical surroundings? I know all of this feels like a lot of work, and it is a lot of work recovering from a tough situation. Much harder than doing this kind of stuff. And what you're doing here in this reach in to reach out is you are anchoring the vibration of joy and the vibration of rejoicing, regenerating joy by choice at a cellular level. So you can always return to it. So not only is the vibration being anchored, you also know practically what you can do about it. Because there will be moments where it would feel inappropriate to even talk about joy because everybody is in a very dealing with a very sad situation or a somber situation. The key thing to remember is that the universe is here to support us, and it always is. And there is only one modus operandi that the universe operates by, which is applying a multiplier effect. Applying a multiplier effect to that which you are vibrating. So given that that is happening anyway, that any one person in an environment where everybody seems to be in a difficult state, coming up with something small, something that reconnects everyone, will bring about a multiplier effect. And you will know based on where you would have used or what might have triggered that action of joy, and which is why I'm saying in your treasure trove, write that down. In writing, you're anchoring it. You'll have all forms of experiences. You won't have your journal in which you've written this stuff all the time, but by writing it, you're anchoring it. It's there. You've actually acknowledged its presence in your field, and you can tap into it. Reach Out also says that rejoicing is not a lone activity. It is something that accentuates and supports collaborative co-creation of coexistence. And this is one of the key things about joy. Joy multiplies even more when you collaboratively co-create these experiences. With the lockdowns and close and all of that going on, there have been situations when you've had to be by yourself. But just know, even when you think physically you are by yourself, you are connected to everybody that you've ever connected with as a human. And of course, we are a part of the environment that surrounds us. Our ecosystem of nature and all the elements is with us all the time anyway. So, you can use the elements, and elements really support the reach out aspect. So elements are fire, water, earth, and air. Fire has the ability to transmutate a state. So if you were feeling down and upset and you've come up with certain actions that give you joy and you've acknowledged it, you can light a candle in honor of these collection of joy items that you have listed. Water can be used in a variety of ways. If you actually made a list of things that take away joy, having acknowledged that which gives you joy, you can use fire to burn off that list. And in the burning, it destroys the joy depleting actions. And it also, when you write those sort of things, you can also make a list of things that make you feel like you have no choice, that you're ready to put a stop to. Use a fire to burn that off. And in its destruction, it transmutates the state, and you anchored the rejoicing vibe. You can add water to the pan that you might have burnt this stuff in. Water washes away the debris and brings flow. And you can then pour it into the earth so it anchors this new collection of your joy treasures. So again, you're collaboratively co-creating with the elements. I mean, that's the great part of being here on this planet. There is always something, someone to co-create with. And that is, again, one of the commandments. It is about collaborative co-creation of coexistence. Another important aspect when it comes to reaching in, to reach out, is this element of coexistence. Sure enough, it includes coexistence between all living things, as well as inanimate objects, as well as the environment. Yes, that's true. And it is also coexistence of a variety of emotions and experiences that we go through. Putting our blinkers on or shutting out the fact that there is something that's making us upset doesn't take it away. It anchors it even more deeply. And your mind completely registers it, because the mind is about survival. And if anything, it's connected to those things that don't make you feel that good and could threaten your survival, in which case the mind starts to really interfere. But by allowing what you feel, good, bad, ugly, beautiful, to coexist, there is a calmness, there is a centeredness, there's a stillness that you can go into and make a choice, and it's helpful if you have already built up your tuck box or your treasure trove with actions that give you joy. Reach out also calls you to express joy. And expressing joy as a matter of choice, applying your voice to it, applying your senses to it. All of that is further, like holographically spreads that vibe into everyone that you have ever connected with. Reach out is a very important facet, and really work with this. Because this is as if, you're the initial cutting of the diamonds. It's like it really sets the gem, the jewel of rejoicing up for the level of brilliance it's going to generate, this first facet. The second one actually links to expression. It's about eloquence. Now, to be eloquent, if you're in a frenzy or you're over elated or really underwhelmed or overwhelmed, either of those situations do not bring eloquence. Eloquence comes from being in a state of knowing. And then from that knowing, you can literally detach yourself from the house and dance in this dance, the expression dance, if you like, the dance of expressing what it is that you wish to communicate. And you will communicate it eloquently. But if it is something that you're not completely comfortable with, it will show, and it doesn't flow with eloquence. So how do you achieve this in the context of rejoicing? Regenerating joy by choice, by not just copying somebody else's collection of actions that gives them joy, but by actually making them your own. There is a nuance to this. It also means, the second facet also means, for that eloquence to come in and land, sometimes you have to practice. The practice speaking it, practice sharing it, practice the use of different media, practice it in different circumstances. So you see what's happening? You've identified your joy actions, and you're getting into practicing it. And what this does is it keeps you reconnected with your treasure trove. You're always in the knowing that you are the one that owns this treasure trove. Not only that, you are the one that has amassed these treasures. And they are yours for the taking, and that they are yours for generously sharing. And that's what brings eloquence. And it's extreme, which is why it is extremely important to know the different situations and circumstances and keep track of that, where you might have used certain joy actions or experiences, so that when you are out there sharing it and you're going to use the facet of eloquence, you're able to be empathetic to where the other person is at. And you're able to know what aspect to bring in to get this person out of their funk, if that's what they're in, or out of their distress. If you haven't experienced utilizing it for yourself in that way, the eloquence will not come. It'll sound like you're preaching something that you haven't experienced yourself. Eloquence also calls you to be in a state of trust, trusting that it's okay to be vulnerable when you are sharing, when you are encouraging someone else. And it's okay for you to be vulnerable when, as a matter of choice, you choose to dip into your treasure trove of joy, when actually there's a part of you which says, this is not the time to be talking about this. So really what is happening, if you just look behind the scenes, you are getting very comfortable and very aware of the entire lay of the land that you are operating from. What is also happening is you're able to remain connected to your core and present yourself in your truth. And that's the foundation of eloquence. If you make a mistake, it's okay. You will say you made a mistake. But if you're just, parroting something that someone else has done, making a mistake will feel like something that is akin to a reprimand, like you're reprimanding yourself. These two facets of reaching in to reach out, and eloquence are very powerful in grounding you. They ground you in the vibration of rejoice. Think about it. When this planet became a planet that was, given life, and life started to regenerate, it was this happy place. Collaboratively co-creation of coexistence was occurring. And literally every moment was a moment of something to celebrate, even though people may not have known that that's what it is. This is before we brought in the command and control devices and vibrations in. The whole concept of heaven on earth. Rejoice gives you access to that experience. Which it also means the experience of heaven can be delivered by you as a matter of your choice. And it's one thing to think this as a positive incantation, and there's another to really be in a state of knowing. So eloquence comes from knowing. How do you get to knowing? I know that many of you have participated in my work for a few years now, and you know the journey to knowing begins with data. So right now I'm sharing some information, some stuff with you, and it is data that is being input into you. That data becomes information when you decide to start interpreting it in terms of how you're going to implement it. That information becomes knowledge when you take your first few steps to implement. And that knowledge becomes wisdom when you start connecting the dots by implementing and seeing that regenerative quality show up. And you start understanding what triggered certain actions, how I went about overcoming certain things. What did it feel like? Where in my body did I feel it? How did I use it to get out of a difficult situation? How did I temper it so I didn't get completely overwhelmed by the ecstasy of joy? It starts to become wisdom. And then you keep doing it. And as your treasure trove fills up, you land in a state of knowing. And really, what is it? What is the state of knowing that I want you to land into in the context of rejoicing? It really is. Rejoice is regenerating joy by choice. If you just did that and got to a state of knowing, the thing about knowing is it's very, very practical. It's like once you get to a state of knowing, nothing can shake it out. That's what happens, which is why eloquence comes in how you express. When you reach out, sharing your own unique experiences with rejoicing. Facet number 3, this is again, many of you have heard me say this. I don't edit anything that's coming through. I just allow the words to come through, and sometimes they feel very odd to me. So I've learned to have the coexistence between my left brain and right brain and all of it operating together. So this third one is a phrase a bit like that. It says, jack of all trades. Like, okay. So rejoicing basically, really what it's implying is you don't have to have any expertise. Rejoicing is accessible, available in any situation by anyone. And, people who implement this in a powerful way literally can do this, have this experience of rejoicing in any situation, with anyone. You don't have to have a certain level of spiritual enlightenment where you can actually go in and have the experience of, regenerating joy by choice. You can do it anywhere with anyone. It doesn't even have to be humans. It could be trees, it could be flowers, it could be, the bus arriving on time. And the larger the treasure trove indicates that you are proud. You proudly show up as a jack of all trades and master of none. And that gives you the mastery in rejoicing. You literally become like this wonderful magician. You're the one that gives you the blessing of rejoicing. I mean, this one, when I started implementing it, I was in Berlin actually, in a lockdown. I mean, Berlin in a lockdown. I mean, for heaven's sake, it's not even a city that has ever conformed to anything. And yet it did. Did not feel like Berlin, as many of you heard me say, for the longest time. And I got to see it in all its facets. And then when I started really implementing this jack of all trades to rejoicing, relinquishing the attachment to I'm a master of something or the other, but really going with the flow, connecting with, the increased number of homeless people that you would see on the streets more than others when during the lockdown, connecting with the grayness of the skies, connecting with trees that had no leaves for a period of time, and then starting to notice as those little buds started to appear on these humongous trees, noticing the brown soil suddenly blossom up with white flowers. It's like literally I felt as if every step I took filled my treasure trove with memories, experiences, vistas, fragrances of joy. I mean, I must have filled up my treasure trove in a massive way. And that has actually happened with all of us. We may not have taken the time to notice it. And if you do take the time to notice what has occurred in the 2020s and beyond, as we keep moving forward, you will notice your treasure trove of what gives you joy has really expanded. The key thing here with this particular facet is recognizing that you don't have to strive for mastery here. Really, when it comes to rejoicing, become a jack of all trades. I think it's pretty amazing. I mean, especially for, I don't know if there are a few people from India here too. For us, we are trained that you have to get a mastery in something. And I know when my first job, it was my second job in the UK, I was working with the civil service quite a lot, and we were trained to be really this jack of all trades and release the attachment to mastery. Didn't understand the relevance of it, and it took a lot of unlearning for me to have those abilities. And I can totally see it when it comes to rejoicing. Really release the mastery part, because rejoicing multiplies when you do collaborative co-creation of coexistence. You're as much a master as anyone else. The fourth one also is another one of those words which I thought I may not have logically thought about applying it to joy, to rejoicing, and yet this is the word. It is omnipresent. This understanding that this facet basically says regenerating joy by choice. This option is, yes, sure, we have this option, but it also means that any action, anything at all that creates that little sliver of joy, when you come to it in the context of rejoicing, it regenerates to such an extent that it's literally becomes your environment. It's omnipresent. It's present everywhere. You don't have to go into a meditation zone. You can be walking, you can be in the middle of a rally or anywhere at all. And you can tap into your treasure trove. All of this writing and stuff that I'm asking you to do is helpful because you're like anchoring the nuances at a cellular level. So you can tap into it. You're the one that is walking around with your cells. Nobody else is. And if you anchored these at a cellular level, you can tap into it anytime you want. And it is a facet of rejoicing that it's omnipresent. Now, what this is also saying is, give some attention to the regenerative actions, experiences of joy. Getting joy by causing harm to another is not necessarily regenerative. Finding joy by, slandering someone else is also not regenerative. So each of these facets has got many layers underneath it. This particular one, the omnipresent part, really calls you to bring in a pureness to that which gives you joy. And it is that, I call it unbridled. If you've got some yuckiness that is there in an action that has given you joy for the moment, then that's not one that goes into your treasure trove. It was a momentary thing. So start applying some discernment. Discerning and discernment are also important words for this time. Applying discernment because you're attached to a particular point of view is one way of going about it. Applying discernment, operating in a context of this world that you are creating for yourself in such a way that it becomes a world that works for everyone, which is what each of these pearls of wisdom are. Each pearl has got the privilege to be called a pearl because each one of them creates a world that works for everyone. So here you will apply some discernment in terms of what type of joy you put into your treasure trove. The discernment looks for the regenerative qualities. And then, as a matter of choice, you put it into your treasure trove and allow it to regenerate. Any joy that you put into your treasure trove of rejoicing, that's what becomes omnipresent. And you can tap into it at any time. You create your own little anchors, if you like, like the wishing stone or a knot in a scarf or whatever, that the moment you feel it, you go back to that moment. For me, I use Venice is a great, I just use the word and I just completely am in the place of my motorboat pulling up at the Danieli, and the excitement that I would have just coming into Venice and going into my favorite room. You'll create your own. You'll create your own. The key thing here is what you put in your treasure trove of rejoicing is omnipresent. And you have access to that anytime you choose. It literally is what your miracle lens shows you. As you know, a miracle is where something beautiful occurs that makes your heart sing. And we all have a miracle lens that shows us what is making our heart sing. If your heart is beating, that is a song of the heart. So by proactively, consciously, building up your treasure trove of joy, you really are adding some amazing vistas for your miracle lens to find. Completely accentuates joy in any situation. The fifth facet. The fifth facet is inspiration. Inspiration is, the expansion of inspiration actually is, in spirit I am stationed. This is a facet of rejoice, regenerating joy as a matter of choice. It is when you are stationed in your spirit, you're connected to the spiritedness of you, and it is from that space that you connect to the spirit of others and everything. And what it means is you're able to benefit from the blessings of these different spirits. Nature spirits envelop you in okayness. Other human beings, the innate vibe, which is really the spiritedness of being human, is love. And when you are plugged into the spiritedness of you, that's your joie de vivre. That's the exuberance of you. It also connects you with, your guides, your intuitive guides, your spirit guides, your human descended masters, as well as ascended masters that may be guiding you. Just knowing and operating from, stationing yourself in spirit, you really are invoking the spiritedness of you. It's the key to vibrant vitality. Inspiration, that's why, the vibe of inspiration, even as you say the word, feels quite uplifting. But that's because it is about, in spirit, I am stationed. It's a declaration. In spirit, I am stationed. I'm going to apply the inspiration facet. I acknowledge in spirit I am stationed. Have a go. Just by saying this to yourself and getting on a phone and talking to someone, you will see the experience will be completely different. It will be a rejoicing vibe throughout. The ooh la la comes from this. In spirit I am stationed. Remember, the power lies in acknowledgement. If something isn't that great, doesn't feel that good, acknowledging it is like this laser focused weed killer that goes straight to the root of that, which is making you feel, not that good. When you acknowledge something positive, it is the fertilizer, that wonderful compost that allows this to blossom even more. And it is up to us to know that we can, only you make the choice of when you choose to declare in spirit I'm stationed, which means I am connected to the spiritedness of me. Just have a go at this. I've had people work with this very powerfully, even in dealing with some of the toughest business situations, as well as difficult relationship breakdowns. This declaration itself connects you to the spiritedness of you, and you immediately reconnect to what I call as dignity, which is something that we are born with, your own worthiness. It's as if it's like one of those abracadabra type words. You're saying this to yourself. It's your magic word that suddenly transforms the state that you're in. A declaration, in spirit I'm stationed. I am now engaging with the inspiration facet of rejoicing. When you are stationed in your spirit, You're plugged into a knowingness that you are a soul being in this human form, a being that is eternal, indestructible, a being that is unencumbered by any fractures that may impact the human form. And by acknowledging in spirit I am stationed, you are also acknowledging the human form as the station in which this powerful being of you is present. The human form, when you acknowledge the human form, you acknowledge and own the expression, the innate vibration that you are, which is love. In spirit, I am station plugs you into the amplifying abilities of the frequency of love, which is what being human is. And that's why it is so powerful. In this facet, there is only rejoicing, regenerating joy as a matter of choice. And you were born stationed in spirit, in your spirit. When you depart, your spirit leaves the station. Until then, you are stationed in your spirit. It's up to you to acknowledge that. In your acknowledgement, you are declaring it, and you are completely presencing all aspects of your presence. The sixth facet is compounding and compounding cumulative. And we've already seen how when you start working with regenerating joy as a matter of choice and go through these different facets, it has a compounding effect, and it cumulatively compounds. Without you doing anything, it becomes regenerative by itself. But it kickstarts by you regenerating joy by choice. With that knowingness that, a facet of rejoicing is compounding and cumulative, then you can choose to be even more discerning in what you put into your treasure trove. You don't have to be very strict about it. You can literally say, I'm going to step into inspiration, in spirit I'm stationed, and from that choose those actions that I have got, those experiences that I have got that give me joy, those vistas, those photographs, those connections, and choose those that I put in my rejoicing treasure trove that will automatically compound and cumulatively multiply at a rate that I couldn't possibly have done myself. Now, what this also did, the way I implemented it for myself, I very specifically focused this facet on actions that gave me joy, that were collaborative. That meant that I could share it with one person and it would impact the life of so many others. So something like Living from Source is a program that came from understanding this part. Understanding that it's once people discover what their autopilot saboteurs are, and they land in an understanding of what is their unique mastery that puts them at the source of their life. I just have to do it once with one person, and it multiplies. Because they have a realization, they land. All of them comes into them, and they recognize for the first time who they truly are. And that cellular memory is literally anchored in such a powerful way across all the senses that we as humans operate with, that I know if I leave just only one person, the world will be a better place, will blossom. So it was something like that came out of this facet, delving into this facet. In the body of work that I do with the miracle lens, what I discovered there was that just like with any lens of a camera, you can put different filters. And some of you I know here are from my business collective, so you've done the miracle lens work. So there is a filter called the Magnificence Filter, which basically shows you that we are all magnificent beings in human disguise. And it's only the human disguise that gets fractured. You can use the Magnificence Filter to really plug into people's magnificence and really delve into their magnificence to such an extent that you enter a magnificence exchange. You give them yours and you take theirs. Now, that body of work also came from implementing this particular facet. The whole entire filter's body of work came from this facet because it is compounding and cumulative. You don't just see the good in people, you actually go into what's magnificent about them. So I'm sharing this from my experience, but each one of you, your life is rich with a whole variety of experiences. There will be elements of that when you engage and do a deeper dive with this facet, there will be things in your experience that you will be ready to share and even teach others. So use your discernment to distill some of those, one or two of those. Remember, the more we teach, the more we anchor within ourselves. So me teaching, expecting and accepting miracles as the norm is the juiciest thing I have ever done in my life, ever. Because that just continually, starts to be my reality. And in the context of rejoicing, it's compounding and cumulatively compounding. Find what that is for you, that you can actually teach and share. And the seventh facet is again a knowing one. It really is that when it comes to rejoicing, the echo lingers on. And it becomes more and more and more amplified. If you've ever been in a place where, you shout and that echo starts to linger on, you know how it becomes, how it reverberates like a natural microphone. And this is just something for you to know, that when you embark on this journey, a facet of rejoicing, regenerating joy as a matter of choice, is that the echo lingers on. So in an hour, let's say you chose 6 times to very specifically engage in joy, the echo lingers on. The whole hour is a rejoicing one. And depending on how amplified you have become in terms of your own experiences of joy, and the more nuanced you become, in an hour, you may just need to do 1 or 2 things, and the echo lingers on. And rejoicing is the vibe. And the great thing is, we are heading towards 2022, whose innate vibe is ooh la la and rejoicing. So the echo is going to linger on far longer we've got a great opportunity now. Literally, from this point on, start building that treasure trove. And go into this. It'll be a trove, then it'll become a cave, and you go into your cave and revel in all the treasures that you filled it with. That's me on rejoicing. Over to you, Catherine.
Thank you, Mynoo. Reverberation.
I know the echo lingers on.
Yes.
I think it's a song, it's a song coming up.
What fun tonight was. I know that we'll all be listening to this over and over. There were so many facets, so many. It was hard to wrap my head around all of them. But I'd love to go ahead and have you all just share your word or closing thoughts, if you would, for Mynoo. What a glorious evening. Oh my goodness, I've loved this one. It's been so fun, so fun. And thank you all for coming for our magical experience. I am never disappointed. It's just like you continue to exceed expectation, Mynoo, over and over. Reverberation.
I just present myself as a vessel of getting this wisdom out,
I love it. Yes, so I'm going to just start with ooh la la. And I would love to read, Mina wrote something in the comments that I think is worthy of noting. Each and every word you say, Mynoo, in today's session is echoing so much resonance. So beautiful. So full of joy. I can't stop smiling.
Yes.
Isn't it beautiful? And we said that, Mynoo, when we were doing our VAC. We were like, okay, beaming smiles. We could feel them. Miraculous, uplifting, and rich, rich, rich. How gorgeous. It's so much fun and play, and to know that we're creating this ourselves, this magical life that we live in.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you all so much. And I will see you soon in spirit. I am stationed. Yes.
And we have Linda with Magnificent yet again, rejoicing. So we look forward to seeing you guys every Thursday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturdays as well. So thank you. And thank you for the newcomers as well. And thank you to everyone on Facebook Live. So we will see you right here next week.
Thank you.